All right, everybody, if you can have a seat, we're going to get started in just a minute. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start by announcing the elected officials that we have here. And if you could just stand, kind of raise your hands, so people know. Trustee of the School Board, Dr. Taja Ahmed. He is from Warren Fitzgerald. Trustee of the Royal Oak School Board, Tim. I'm not even going to try it. One of our panelists, State Senator Paul Bueno. State Representative Rich Steenland, another of our panelists. City Council woman, Angela Rogensus. Mayor Pro Tem of Sterling Heights, Liz Surowski. Council Secretary for Warren, Mindy Moore. Council President of Warren, Pat Green. We also have with us 41A District Court Judge Steve Surowski. Sterling Heights Councilman Mike Radke. Treasurer Lori Barnwell from Warren. Commissioner Mai Zhang from Warren Centerline for Macomb County Commission. And Trustee Joan Flynn from Macomb Community College. And we have former County Commissioner Andre Duje. Lori Stone. They didn't sign in. And Nate Janet. Did I miss any elected officials? Oh, I'm sorry. We do have a couple more. We've got Brian White from the Warren Consolidated School Board. Carl Weckerly from the Warren Consolidated School Board. Any other elected officials?
I'm sure they're always very interesting. Everybody's talked about a lot of great stuff. You know, I used to be in partisan politics. I like nonpartisan politics better. We can kind of take something that's broken and fix it. And on the council side, what I really believe in is setting policy through budget. The city council, which has more people representing a larger population from north and south and east and west all over the city, and taking tax dollars and appropriating them equally across all areas of the city, so that it's not just in one section. It's not one section of the city getting something nice and others not. And that's part of the things we need to fix within the city of Warren, is make sure we have an equal application and apportionment of taxes for everyone to benefit from how those are brought in. So a little bit about my background. I told this the other night. I started out handing out literature when I was 7 for Judge George Montgomery. And one of the funniest, you learn in the beginning was you learn at a young age when you start putting it in the mailbox because you don't know. You can't do that, and the mailman yells at you, and you go back to him, sorry, I'm 7. But after that, I started going to town halls like this. I went to a town hall with a Congressman, Jim Blanchard, and asking questions about the Panama Canal Treaty, why we're selling it to Panama and whatnot. He sent me all the congressional minutes, and I got involved in the debate in my junior high. And the teacher at the time, gosh, what was his name? I think he's mayor now. I won the debate that. So what we're trying to do on Warren City Council, and I'm blessed to have so many good members with me, is set policy through the budget so that, again, everyone is treated equally and fairly. Will we get it right? No, but that's why we do it every year, so we can keep amending it. And I love the phone calls that I get from everyone. I get phone calls on everything all the time. Yesterday, hey, the tree's down. Can you send someone to pick it up? We like those. We'll send it off to the mayor. We'll send it off to the department head. We'll get it done. We're here to work for you. Feel free to call us anytime. Thank you.
Oh, that was a good catch.
All right, the Sterling Heights.
Okay, just say hi. Yeah, you're all loud. Hi.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm Liz Surowski. I'm Mayor Pro Tem of Sterling Heights.
But first, what I want to do is I want to congratulate Warren. We have been in a little bit of a battle over the census. We kind of thought that maybe we were going to be the third largest city, but Warren edged us out again, and we thought that maybe Warren's So congratulations to Warren. They edged us out by about 5,000 residents. So very much, very cool, very good, and happy to hear that for Warren. But again, I'm a mayor pro tem. That means that I've been reelected, and I've been mayor pro tem for the last 2 terms. I'm running again for my 4th term. Hopefully, things will go well, and I will be reelected again. But Sterling Heights, this is Sterling Heights. This is one of our parks, and this is Nelson Park, and we welcome you to our city. We are very proud of our city. We're very proud of our Parks and Recs program. That is one of our voter initiatives that we have passed, 6 years ago now, where the voters decided that they wanted a better park system, a little bit better roads, a little more money for the police and fire. So we have our things that are going much better for our residents because the voters put that in. So we are hoping to continue with that as a re-election this coming year. So thank you guys for being here. We look forward to your questions, and thank you for all your help for the Democratic Caucus and the Democratic Club here. I'm so glad to see Carol Chi, who was part of our Sterling Heights Dem. And so is, but now we're merged together. So thank you again, and we look forward to your questions.
Wow, I had to follow a real murderer's row here, okay? To finish up, I'm Michael Ray, came on the City Council in Sterling Heights. I guess we're so different ways you guys. Talking about how we got started in politics. I joined the Democratic Party at 16 years old. I am now 36. I can't believe I've been coming to meetings like this for 20 years, but it's always great to see so many friends. And I see so many friends here today. You know, Sterling Heights, we're in a unique moment. Warren and Sterling Heights combined, we're one of the largest metropolitan areas now in the state, 300,000 people, and we're growing more and more diverse. And one thing I've fought for in City Council is not just diversity, but creating a city for everyone. Long-term residents, new residents, make sure everyone gets along and can live here in peace and prosperity. I'm so proud of all my colleagues' work. We've done so much here in Sterling Heights. So I can't wait for your questions. I'm not going to belabor the point. Thank you for coming. We're going to have a great time today, I'm sure.
All right, with that, we're going to go right into questions. So we've got some here. I'm going to call the person's name, hand them the question, and have them read it. And then what we're going to do is any elected official that wants to kind of weigh in on that question. Some of these are cities, some are counties, some are states, some are all. So everybody can't weigh in on every question, otherwise we'll be here for 3 hours. But we'll let a few of you weigh in on each question. So the first one's going to come from Jackie Kelly.
Hello, everyone. My question is for Warren and Sterling Heights. How can we diversify our representatives for them to reflect more of the city? That's the city of Sterling Heights and the city of Warren. I'm a Warren resident, and many of you here know me. One of my goals is to make sure that we look like the people that represent us look like us. And that's everyone. We have such a vast, diverse community in Warren as well as in Sterling Heights. But sometimes people don't feel as though they're representative because they don't feel as though they're someone. So would you all answer that question for me? Thank you.
Jackie, I'll go first.
Okay.
So, thank you so much for that question. I think you and I have similar concerns about what I was just talking about earlier, is that the reason why I ran for office is I didn't see anyone that looked like me. But unfortunately, many people of color come from low-income families. And so running for office is not a priority because they're just trying to get food on the table. And when you run for office, it's very expensive to run and raise $10,000, $20,000. And so you see a lot of older people who are retired in elected official positions. And no offense to any of you who are retired, but the reality is that people like me, we don't have the financial means and to run for office because our priorities are somewhere else. And so I think it's really about lifting the income of every single family and making sure that we have high quality education and that we have resources for our residents so that they don't have to worry about putting food on the table and figuring out where their next paycheck is going to come from. So it's not a one single answer to the solution, but it's a collective of all of us coming together and recognizing that we do have that issue is the first step, but we definitely have to do more to lift up more folks so that they can have the ability to run for office and to represent our communities. Thank you.
Not everybody is in favor of the way we've done things in Warren with our districts, but that was one of the reasons that we did vote in the district way of electing our officials, so that there would be smaller areas and it wouldn't be so overwhelming to run at large. For instance, when I ran the first time citywide, I spent about $80,000, $30,000 of my own money. The last time I ran, it cost about $17,000, so that's a big difference. So that does open the door for more people to run for office. Also, we did our districts from north to south, so that all districts, I think but one, include parts of the entire city. So from 14 to 8 Mile, in my instance, I'm from Hoover to Shaner, from 14 to 8 Mile, so I cover, a bit of the whole city. So I think that is one thing that we've done. There's lots more to do, but I think that does help and open the door to allow more people to run for office.
Hi again. Mindy talked about, Councilwoman Moore briefly talked about a diversity, equity, and inclusion ordinance that she authored and put forth to City Council. That's the step. I talked about policy earlier. We set a policy. It's in the mayor's hands now. He has to implement it. And one thing that we did is that as a board, the board gets appointed first, and then the board hires the officer. And the head of that department isn't subject to control from the mayor. They're from that board. So there isn't any influence. There isn't any go sit down, don't talk like we've had in the past. It's truly going to be someone who's independent that can take actions in the best interest of the city and the residents. Now, what we've done from an elected standpoint, not everybody wants to run for office, but we hope everyone does. So what we've done as well is we've started appointing to the various boards and commissions. We've looked at how can we expand the membership of our boards and commissions, and we've taken steps to do that across the entire city, and we'll continue to do so. So when we're always looking at elected, also look at all the appointed boards as well and make sure that you're expanding everything there, because someone may not know that they want to run for office. So a good place for them to start, get on a board. And there's a few that council controls, there's more that the mayor controls, but find out what you're interested in and apply for it. And that's a great way to start to figure out how a city works, to figure out what the residents want, and just start conversations. And that's always the most important thing, is that we all keep having conversations.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's a great question, Jackie. Something I've really focused on in Sterling Heights. Diversity in policy, but diversity in practice. Not only do we have to set up boards, we set up the Community Alliance in Sterling Heights, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, to help set policy. But I've made a personal goal to make sure that we're appointing diverse people to all of our boards. I fought to add the only female member of our Zoning Board of Appeals. I fought to add diverse voices to all of our committees, because diversity brings a different perspective. It's important to make sure everyone understands that they have a place in Sterling Heights, and when they can look at a board and know that that board represents not only their neighbors but them, they'll get more involved. So something that we have to continue to work on. We're hiring our first diversity officer this year, hopefully, or create the plan. We're creating a plan for diversity and inclusion throughout our entire departments and our hiring. And it's kind of like you kind of create the plan, so then you go forward to carry it out. It's what we're working on right now, but I look very forward to it. It's very important. Macomb County is diversifying, and we need to keep up with it, because we want to make sure everyone has a place in Sterling Heights.
Thanks, Mike.
Jackie, I just wanted to add to what Councilman but the Warren Redistricting Commission is going to be responsible for drawing new districts this year here in Warren. And I think this club should sit down and take a good look at the recommendation that we can make to the Warren Redistricting Commission, made up of the city attorney, city clerk, and city assessor, because we're given a unique opportunity to have those districts in Warren reflect the neighborhoods. Thank you.
So I'm going to fall back on education. A big piece of diversifying is experience and engagement. As a high school student, I had the opportunity to participate through the MISD in career pathways for women in non-traditional career pathways. And that's when my paths first crossed with Senator Bueno, because I showed up at my mentorship program and a gentleman was standing there and he said, "So I hear you want my job." So it was an exploration and experience, opening your eyes and seeing yourself in a position that you hope for in the future. We need to start by engaging our youth. Our kids are passionate and we see it. And making sure that they see that their voice matters and can change things even from before they can vote. We need to make sure that we're engaging our populations that might be underrepresented, not waiting for people to come to us, but reaching out into communities and finding out what they need and creating those pathways to engagement. We need to find opportunities for participation from every level. The best way to get experience to run a campaign is to work on someone else's campaign. So inviting people in to shadow, to do field training, and to be campaign, members. Exposure, and then identifying and inviting. So looking around the community and seeing natural leaders from every walk of life, from school boards, from PTOs, from religious organizations, and ask them to run. Ask them to take those skills and step up and see if they see themselves in another role and see if they add value to it there. And a lot of times you have to ask people more than once before they will even consider running for it. Because everyone up here will testify to how difficult it is. But we need to start by looking in our communities, inviting more people in.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to say one thing real quick. I think I agree with what everyone said up here. I particularly want to highlight what Council President Green, Council Secretary Moore said, that they're putting these things in our budget and as a city. And one of the feedbacks I keep hearing over and over again when Councilwoman Moore and I met with some residents in the southeast part of Warren, they feel that they're not getting all the services that the rest of Warren is getting. And I think when you look at those residents, a lot of times they're women, they're people of color who are not, they feel like they are left out. They're on an island. So how motivated and encouraged are you going to be in leadership or run for office if you feel left behind and you're on an island? And I think us as a city, we need to make sure that all residents, as Council President Green and Council Secretary Moore said, that all residents are included, that everyone has equal city services. And I think that's going to go to a long way for everyone to feel included. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I thought those were great answers. Next, we got a question. I can't read the last name real well. It's Carl Martin. Last name starts with an H. Can you read?
I think it's kind of like H-O-E-N-L-E.
Yes.
He was here. He's got a white shirt on.
Okay. Well, I will just read it for him because it's a good question.
I'm going to finish.
Ryan Road between 696 and 8 miles of disaster. There's been some good work between 10 Mile and DeQuinder, but there's more work to do. What can be done to fix our roads?
Yeah.
You want to talk about road funding?
This is a Warren question.
Does everybody know how road funding works? Have we beat it? Yeah, Act 51 in 1951 happened. You get X amount of dollars per every mile of road. Okay, so if I get $1 million for Ryan, or 10 mile to 11 mile for Ryan Road, that's what, 5 lanes? And if you get, if it's a 2-lane road, I still get $1 million. So it's just not, again, we talked about it earlier, it's not important. Every time it's brought up, my very first bill was putting Schneider's 21st Century Road Commission into action. There was 4 bills out of that. Never happened. Because again, as Representative Stevens said, I had the wrong letter in front of my name. So we've had on council, we we encourage the various departments to come up to us to get things done, because we hear about it. I mean, you asked about Ryan Road, but we've really been focusing on 13 mile, the railroad tracks. And I just noticed that that's starting to fall apart again today, and they just paid it a few weeks ago. You put a project in for fixing a road, and it gets put into a list. We get some funding from the state and local road funding, and then it gets put onto a list for the engineer to get done, and then they have to bid it out, and then they have to get a contract. So when you hear about a road being bad, think about 2 years down the road it's going to get fixed, because they move so slow. And that's one of the things we've been talking about from a policy standpoint from City Council is find a better method. This is not working. Councilman Lackford, he's not here with us today. He's been asking for a map of when roads are going to get done. They have a map on the wall that's color-coded based on when they're going to get done. We can't do that. You're an engineering department, a big printer, you can't print one out for me. No. It's on the website. You can open it up and try and find it. So, communication with the engineering department and a faster methodology, because we can't sit here and we're starting Mound Road starting next week. All of the projects in the city always get done, it seems, in August, right before school starts. That's what I want. I want 16-year-olds starting to go to high school on road construction. We have to find a better way. We have to work on the roads more often, faster, and do it once.
Can we ask a follow-up question?
You want to really speak?
No, I want to.
Come on, man.
You know, you say about a year, couple years in advance. We have Mound Road between 8 and 10 that has never been completed in the 6 years that I've been
I voted
alive.
no on it.
What's that?
I voted no on the funding.
Well, for Innovate?
Yeah.
Okay. But
Because of that.
still, Mound Road between 8 and 10 has never been completed. No storm drains, no curbs. Yeah, it's been like that since ever.
Yep. That's a county
Why can't we
road.
fix that?
That's a county road. Do we have a county commissioner?
So just to kind of add on to what President Packley was saying is, at the county level, we actually do have a map on macombgov.org. You can go to the road department and take a look at the map, and it'll show you all the roads that are going to be fixed. And so I can definitely provide you that link, and then you can visit it.
Give you a reason
Right.
for why it's never been done.
I'm sorry, I'm not finished yet. Can I talk?
Go ahead.
Okay. So as I was saying earlier, I understand that 8 miles to 10 mile mound area is in dire of repair. I understand that. I actually took some photos, sent it to the road department, and they said they would take a look at it. They do have Innovate Mound, which is going to be from 10 miles to 59, but their response was that the 8 mile to 10 mile area, there wasn't a lot of economic advantages for that area. And that was an answer that they gave us, unfortunately. I would encourage you to call the county executive and the road department and ask them why that 8 mile to 10 mile area is not included in the Innovate Mound. But according to them, they said there's not enough funding, so they're still trying to find funding for that area. But I do agree with you, and I understand your concerns about it needing to be a part of this Innovate Mound area. But everything that Patrick said is true. It gets put in a queue, and then they take a look at it, and then they determine if and when they can fix it. But it takes pressure from the public to really, speed up that process. And so I would just encourage you to call the road department and to share your complaints with them, because that's something that I've been concerned about, and I've had conversations with them as well.
and I think it's appropriate, thank you, Mike, that this is like a multi-tiered problem issue, but it's also something that we work together across levels of government to address. So let's start with decades of underfunding infrastructure, specifically roads, okay? If you have a $15 billion expense and they're telling you that they're providing $600 million in record funding for roads, that tells you your first problem. First problem is that we are massively underinvesting in infrastructure. It's not sexy. It doesn't get headlines. And for every dollar you invest in infrastructure renewal, you also then have to answer the phone calls complaining once those construction barrels go out. So every budget that comes out and people talk about that record funding on infrastructure, you need to question, what does that mean? Is this just another Band-Aid budget to get us through? Or are we talking about real investment? And we're seeing federal investment that has the potential to bring in a lot of dollars to Michigan, as well as a lot of jobs for the unions and for workers in construction, and to improve quality of life for all of us. And we collaborate on funding that's set aside from the state across, because you look around and all these roads are a patchwork of state roads, federal roads, county and local roads. And so it's not always clear which roads are which and who's accountable for what. But know that we do work across levels of government to try to get as much funding locally as we can. You know, Patrick pointed out some serious issues with funding. When you go up north on vacation and you hit about Claire and you're like, it's smooth driving, because they get, by the formula we currently use, massively disproportionate amount of investment in those roads. Unfortunately, when you look at the greatest makeup of our legislature, a good chunk of those seats are held, and a lot of leadership seats are held by out-state representatives, which means they are never going to put an agenda item on for a vote or up for committee hearing that is going to cut the funding for their infrastructure, just to send a little bit more money back to Metro Detroit to make sure these multi-line roads are adequately funded. We continue to fight, and this is one of the bipartisan issues across Macomb County that we fight so hard for, because we have 10 representatives that are both Republican and Democrat, and we have Senate members who are constantly fighting and reintroducing legislation that provides for adequate and equitable funding for our roads. But we also look for opportunities for projects to monopolize on any additional federal funding or project dollars. And so Innovate Mound has been fantastic, but it has taken a massive coordinated effort to scrounge dollars wherever we can get them in order to get it. And it has been pointed out that you can have 696 to M59, but if you don't include 8 Mile, we have cars and industry that count on that. And so we are working with congressional partners to make sure that 8 Mile to 10 Mile is bringing additional federal dollars home. So Senator Stabenow and Peters, as well as Representative Levin, are working to help bring some additional funding dollars to extend that Innovate Mound to cover all of it.
Can I make a comment though?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard the excuse before that there's not enough of economic usage south, between 8 and 10 miles. What about the Chrysler? They put billions of dollars into their plant. How can you say there's not enough economic, diversity or whatever down in that area? We just had the transmission plant. So what's going in there? I'm sure they would like to have a nice road.
We're in complete agreement. We agree that anyone who lives.
The excuse is, there's not enough economy down there.
We know differently.
Yeah.
Because we drive it and we watch it and we know where those arteries are that things need to move.
Yeah.
But good question.
Let me have one real. Sorry, Paul. Here's the issue. you want manufacturing from Hall Road to be able to go to 696 to be able to get to 75 and 94. That's the issue. The problem with the funding is that Mound is a county road, not a state road. So there is a little bit less control in the funding, and
Don't you think
that
the
is
funds
an
coming
aspect.
out of the assembly
I don't
line will
disagree
go?
with you, but I mean, for most of the people that are up here, that decision was made prior to us.
Oh, absolutely, I
And
understand.
and we don't-
But
we don't
I'm just saying
disagree.
the excuse is always, you know.
It's not an excuse.
They
It's
don't want
how the
to
plan was written.
address anything south of 696.
We're fighting for it.
Yeah. Sorry.
I just want to jump back to the main subject of roads too. This past week in Washington, they passed that 1.1 trillion infrastructure package. Of course, it still has to be passed by the House, but Michigan is due to receive roughly $11 billion, MDOT $7.5 billion over the next 5 years. When we get that money, it'll be my responsibility, Lori, Nate, Rich, and the entire Macomb delegation to make sure that we fight not only for our cities, but our county and our state roads here in this area to get the funding that we deserve. I know Macomb County alone is looking at getting approximately $170 million. But when that money comes into the state, we're going to be given a unique opportunity. And excuse the pun, maybe a light at the end of the tunnel. But I believe that our entire delegation is going to come together, Republicans and Democrats, and fight for our cities and for our county. Thank you.
I don't live in Warren, but I want to make a brief comment. One thing I want people to focus on, though, we need to make our roads multimodal. One thing that we had to fight with about Innovative Mound and other things is sidewalk on both sides of the street. It's great to build roads for commerce, for cars to drive down, but if we're not building streets for people, what are we doing here? And that's one thing I think the county roads department needs to focus on, and we need to focus on when we're rebuilding our streets, is make sure we have sidewalk, bike lanes if necessary, safe places for people to cross the street. 18.5 in Mound is still not a safe intersection for pedestrians to cross. And we have housing on one side of that street. When we prioritize cars over people, what are we doing here? That's my biggest thing I want to say about that.
Okay, I got a follow-up question for that.
Sure.
Okay, Innovative Mound Road, is it true that they're gonna put 8-foot wide sidewalks on both sides?
Well, on the west side.
Only on the west side. So what
Yes.
happens to our green space? It's eaten up by concrete.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
And they're not putting in that sidewalk.
I've seen what they've done on Connors, you know, down there. They're putting in huge sidewalks. And I mean, they're taking a tremendous amount of green space by putting in 8-foot wide sidewalks that hardly anybody was going to walk on.
All right, so we got a few more questions. Next one is from Carol Chi, who is the vice president of our club.
Okay, I don't know if this is for the city or the county, because I live on a county road, but I live in the city of Sterling Heights, and the part of our road, I live on Moravian, part of the road is in Clinton Township, part of it is in Sterling Heights, and the speed limit changes. And we only have a small, the part of Moravian that's in Sterling Heights is really short compared to Clinton Township, but it's got a much faster speed limit. I think throughout Clinton Township, Moravian is 35 miles per hour, but in our little strip of Sterling Heights, it's 45 miles per hour. It's only a 2-lane blacktop, except in front of my house and a few more, they've put a third lane, like a turn lane, or who knows what that lane's for. I don't know, it causes more, it's caused more accidents, including deaths, than any place nearby. In the middle of the night, but still. So, I'd like them to, why, I don't know if it's for the city of Sterling Heights to do this, to lower the speed limit in Sterling Heights, to match the speed limit in Clinton Township, even though a lot of people I know, no names given, go down that road all the time. I know, it's a busy road, because when the sewer breaks happened, and it's happened 3 times since we've lived there, 40 years, 3 times, right nearby. All that traffic from 15 goes on to Moravian. Okay, fine, but lower the speed limit a little bit, because we have a lot of walkers in our neighborhood, and the sub behind me that everybody walks. I walk and all that. We walk, and there's no sidewalk on the other side of the street, like Mike said. But and our mailbox has been mown down no less than 8 times since we've lived there. The whole thing was torn down, completely run down by cars going so fast. There used to be a speed, and the speed limits on state roads, on the mile roads, I should say. I don't know what those are. The state, I don't know what those are. on the mile roads is only 40 miles per hour, but the lanes, they have 4 to 5 lanes. We are 2-lane blacktop and it's 45 miles per hour. Explain that to me, please. And how do you change that? Thanks.
Okay, Carol. So, yes, your road needs to have a city traffic study. So I will get in touch with the chief of police, who will go ahead and put up one of the studies. We have 2 different types of studies we can do, actually 3 different types. We can do just the big trailer that does the study and just slows people down by just flashing the sights. There's another actual radar study which flashes it and then sends the study back, back to the computer that will then coordinate that. And then there's a third which looks like it's a camera, but it doesn't have any flashing lights. So we'll talk with Dale Wojciechowski, our chief, see what he wants to do, which he sees as best, because you have to have deaths, as you've said, and they will have records of that. They will determine which would be the best and safest. They will coordinate that with you, and I will have him talk to you probably directly to see where exactly that is. Okay? Easy. Yep.
All right.
All right, I don't think we need a whole lot more on that one. Great job. So next up, we got a question from Jonathan Matthews.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. My question is not about roads, so you may take that to mean whatever you wish. One of the most fundamental ideas in a democracy is the ability for people to go out and vote and know that their voices are heard. There's been a lot of development and news over the past couple of months over different ideas cities are taking, cities, municipalities are taking to alter the mechanisms through which people can vote. This past year during the pandemic, we had a lot of drop boxes and other ways of voting that a lot of people had not utilized in the past. My question to you is quite simple. What plans are or will be in place to make the path to voting clear and accessible for everyone? Thank you.
I don't know if I should volunteer this, but I'm a member of the Senate Elections Committee. And I'm the only Democrat on the Elections Committee. And as you know, over the past several months, 39 bills were introduced by Republicans, most of them aimed at voter suppression. There's some bills that relates to window dressing. We've had approximately 5 hearings at this time, but they've only moved 3 or 4 of the bills through the Senate. And the bills that they did move attack the voter affidavit, and also the issue of drop boxes, as you mentioned. There's several bills regarding drop boxes. First, they have requirements as it would relate to requiring video equipment on drop boxes. They would have to be approved by your county board of canvassers. And there's also another piece of legislation that would prohibit a drop box from being utilized the day before the election. It would have to end at 5 p.m. Going forward, as we have D's in front of our name, and we're in the minority in the Senate, some of these bills will move through the system. At this time, there's only been 3, and don't know what the House is planning to do with those bills, or whether they'll be sent to the governor's office. If she vetoes them, will there be a citizens petition? But what was most interesting is we've heard a lot of claims about fraud from various groups. Ed McGrew, who's a Republican, and he had a committee established that looked into the issue of voter fraud here in the state of Michigan. After several months of testimony, and Ed is a very detailed individual. He went through everything. He listened to testimony, and both he and Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey agreed that there was no fraud in the state of Michigan. And yet they're still being criticized by members of their own party. So I think going forward, we should be very proud of our elective process. I know Rick Steelan, who's a former municipal clerk, as myself, we are always very proud of our election workers and the jobs they do. I've often challenged individuals who question the election process to come in and go through a workshop and find out what the absentee counting board does, what an election worker does at the polls on election day. Set up the equipment. If there's an issue and a machine jams, you'll see how they address it, and they keep track of every issue that comes up during the day. And I think if a lot of people went through the process of being trained as an election worker, they'd really realize what a great system we have here in the state of Michigan. And I don't know if Clerk Steelan would like to add anything.
Absolutely.
I put you on the spot.
I appreciate that. This is the one spot I know a little bit about. And that is a great question. And as I spent 13 years as a city clerk in Roseville, and I can tell you that people would take 2 seconds to come to the local clerk, ask them to walk through the process. You would be amazed. The last election, we had Channel 2, Channel 4. They came in and they wanted to watch the absentee process because of all the questions and concerns as to the security of it all. And I'm here to tell you that, having spent 13 years as city clerk, we've had drop boxes for 13 years. Never had a single problem with drop box. When I hear these outlandish remarks about drop box being stuffed, this is just amazing. There's so many. I joke that Paul has heard me say it 100 times. We have checks and balances on the checks and balances, and then checks and balances on those checks and balances. There are so many. If these people would come through, we had challengers from both parties during the last presidential election. You know how crazy it was when they're encouraging everybody. Mail in your ballot, vote absentee, but then they come out and say, don't mail it because mail is going to lose your ballot. So as a result, we had lines out the door at City Hall for 2 weeks before the election. We couldn't even catch a breath to have a sandwich. And I will tell you, our new Roseville city clerk is there. She happened to have been my deputy city clerk through that time. And we had such a great election that year. We worked hard together. Election inspectors take pride. These people are, and when I hear how they had little old ladies bringing ballots into the Coble Hall or wherever the heck it was, these are people who volunteer and they're getting paid minimal amount of money. They're not going to risk walking in a door with ballots under their shirt to give somebody they don't know 27 votes that aren't going to mean anything. It just, the theatrics that have gone on with this whole process, I got to tell you, we had a Republican challenger in our absentee counting board. We had a Democratic challenger in our absentee counting board. At the end of the night, the Republican was so amazed, he couldn't believe what a great process we had. We had over ballots. How many absentee ballots? Over 15,000 absentee ballots, and we were 100% completely balanced. And the process we have in place, they were amazed walking out of there. So I'm going to call my Republican chair and tell them how there is no concern here. And I think that people don't understand the integrity in the election process with the workers, the election inspectors who are trained. They're doing it as part of a civic duty. Half the time when an election worker comes to sign up to become an election inspector, 2 weeks later they get a check in the mail. And they're like, why did the city send me a check? Half of them didn't even realize they were getting paid. It is not very much. We're able to pay them for an 18-hour day about $150, which is ridiculous. But again, it all comes back to the money. But I'm here to tell you that I feel that drop boxes are secure because every one of those ballots come out of there are checked for signatures. They're checked against their own signature. They're checked, we check a signature when we get the application. We check the ballot signature. We check the driver. We have the signatures in the qualified voter file. There's so many checks and balances. So the theatrics about drop boxes, I'm all for it. To shut them down on election day is just a ridiculous another move to inhibit the process. And so there's a 39 bill package, as Paul indicated. We've all gotten little copies of it. I read it. Some of them are they're laughable. You can't even finish reading through them because it's just ridiculous. And a lot of these things are putting such a demand on the local clerks who already don't have the staff or the wherewithal or the time. The same day voter registration is very nice, but we've got to find a way to fine tune it because it handcuffs the clerks on election day. There are so many things going on prior to the election. You have to train, and I know Warren's like the biggest state or the biggest city in the world now, but the city of Roseville, I mean, we have 150 election inspectors that we have to train, and you can't do that in 20 minutes. So you don't have time on election day. You're putting out fires. You're getting those you're getting all this equipment fired up. And this is the other thing that people don't understand when they go to vote on election day. And it's a presidential election, there's a line out the door, and they're getting frustrated, and they're calling my office. I had to wait 27 minutes to vote. These people work this election. They work a computer. They do it once every 2 years. This is not something you do every day, like in your everyday job, where in repetition you get good at it. We go through training. We do everything we possibly can. But they're all not
professionals. I mean, these people do this once or twice a year. And so, as a voter, I'm just saying, when you go to vote, please give that some consideration, because, and that's one thing I tell the challengers, when you have these challenges at the election, they come in and they're standing behind the, you know, the people working the computers, issuing the ballots, so on and so forth. And I say to them, I said, just be considerate of their situation, because you're making them nervous just walking in the door. And how would you like it if I came to your office and stood over your shoulder and asked you everything you were doing, every move? Now, I understand and I respect the process, but give them, the workers, some consideration. And so, as far as your question goes, I know I went a little off, and Paul, you should have never asked me to talk, but I'm going to go sit down now. But I think the integrity of the ballot box and the other box is good. I'm moving now.
Isn't it great having people here who have such deep knowledge about the subject matter? I mean,
Yes.
Representative Steele, Senator Bueno, thank you very much. For the city of Warren, what we're doing, again, going back to the same mantra, we do it through policy. And in the 2020 election, we put out $60,000 for our clerk to purchase boxes and put them across the city. Our goal was to have one drop box for every 20,000 residents.
Just to briefly follow up with that, you know, Sterling Heights in the last election deployed 5 drop boxes, one at every one of our fire stations and one in front of City Hall. I personally authored a budget amendment to make absentee ballot free for residents in the city, postage return. And one of the great things about that amendment, and I know this board and I appreciate that, was that it went statewide. So you can create statewide policy on a local level. We made a budget amendment to make absentee balloting easier for our residents, and Jocelyn Benson ran with it. And then so many other cities, I think Warren also did the same thing, jumped on it. It was a great policy, because it, for us, I think it cost us $24,000 last year, give or take, but it made absentee balloting immensely easier for our citizens. It's very popular. We're doing it again. It's now become city policy. Making voting easier is not hard. It just takes a little bit of work.
One thing I wanted to say too, if you look at the voting numbers of the percentage of voters who voted in Warren in 2020 and who voted in Sterling Heights in 2020, we were almost 10% lower than Sterling Heights. And part of that is because of the drop boxes and not giving residents a quick, easy way to drop off their ballot. And I know that myself, many of those on this stage, Congressman Levin and others, were really asking the current Warren clerk to please put in these drop boxes. Warren wants them, they matter. So I think Councilwoman Moore already gave you an assignment about our diversity team that council wants to form. Here's my another assignment I'm going to give you. Please, before the next election, ask our city clerk to put in those drop boxes for our residents.
My colleagues really established the security of our system. America, across the country, is a decentralized election system that is one of the most secure in the world. Put it up against anyone in the world. What we need to do is to explain the big lie, okay? It is only because there is a lie out there that is being repeated, elevated, and sowing doubt in the integrity of our system. And if those voices are loud, we have to be louder to reinforce that our system does what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to do it, securely, and everyone has a role to play in it. So get involved.
All right, we're going to bring it back local. This time we've actually got 2 questions. I'm going to ask that they both be asked because they're similar but a little different. So I'd like them to be able to address them together. And I'm going to expand them a little bit into Sterling Heights as well. So first up, we've got Lauren Papazian.
First, I want to
small business owner in Warren, and I've lived there for 10 years. I love the downtown, and I'm going to ask Ms. Barnwell. I think like the mayor has a direction that he wants to go, but I think it's more important to keep it small. Like people go to downtowns because there's small businesses, there's things to go do, there's things to go see. So I think if you're going to have a downtown, I would like to see it be more small business minded. Is there a way that we can subsidize small businesses to open up in a downtown to provide things for citizens and people from outside the town to come in and do? I think that's like what Ferndale does. They do a wonderful job of keeping everything local, keeping it small, keeping it fresh and cool. Possibly is there a way to build a committee to choose businesses so that, we are building the type of attractions for people to come see. That's it.
Thank you. Before we take the answer, Debbie Roseman.
Yeah, I can just speak. My husband's a small business owner. He's a dry cleaner on 13 and Hoover, North Point Cleaners. Everybody should go.
Yeah, that's where I go. All right.
That's my husband.
He's my husband's best friend now, just so you know. My husband's Frank on Saturday morning.
Anyway, I'd like to know more about what Warren wants to do with their downtown to bring more energy into the city of Warren.
All right.
Okay. I'm just going to say a couple things and then turn it over to council leadership because they're the ones really running the show in the downtown. But I just want to take the opportunity, thank you for the question. And I think a lot of you know I've been speaking out since 2017 about needing a downtown. But not just any downtown, the right downtown. And this proposal that's out there right now, this proposal goes back many years, and it was the proposal currently on the table in 2017 when I was started talking about needing the downtown. And I don't necessarily dislike everything about the downtown. My concerns are not learning from what we're seeing around us, and I'll explain that. Let's just take the city of Detroit as an example. The city of Detroit started to reconstruct their downtown. They had business owners in mind, out-of-town guests, higher-end stores and restaurants and the Renaissance Center, and that's all nice to really go hang out there. But what they forgot was the average Detroit resident. And a lot of them felt, I don't have a buy-in to this downtown. What's in this downtown for me? And since Mayor Duggan and some other leaders have taken over, they've realized that. And now they've really expanded the Riverwalk and the Campus Marsh area, have food trucks, have a variety of different things at Eastern Market, where residents feel more of a buy-in, more of a part of this downtown area in Detroit. Okay, so now kind of going to what's happening in Partridge Creek and Clinton Township. When Partridge Creek opened, Lori Barnwell was there every week. I was a big Partridge Creek fan. All the stores were brand new. Everything was beautiful. Well, now what's happened? And this is not just because of the pandemic. This is a cultural society thing that's happening to a lot of these stores. So when we look at the downtown, we have to have all residents in mind of all income levels and backgrounds. That's the first thing. The second thing is having at least one anchor that is not, it's not going to matter what's going on in the economy. So right now, the anchor for this model is a hotel. Okay, not 100% opposed to that, but what happens if we go through another pandemic? Business travel is down. It is going to pick back up, but it'll never, ever be like how it was. Never. So what are you going to do to have another anchor that is not, it's not going to be affected by the economy, like a museum, like a science center. You go to DIA, the Science Center downtown, they're always innovating. They're always trying to do new, fresh things to bring residents back. And those things are timeless. And we should have something like that in Warren. And having an anchor like that could really help sustain the downtown and include everyone, all residents. And if Partridge Creek would have had an anchor such as that, it might look different now. And I think we need to be, as I agree, very careful when we construct this downtown that it shouldn't just be high-end little stores. It needs to be stores for a variety of residents, and so small businesses can afford to be in this structure, as you had said. And I think just in general, as I said in the beginning, that this downtown is for all of us, and we all need to be involved. And I have talked to the mayor many times about this. You know, he's angry that, you know, it's not getting the support that he wanted it to. But I said, have you, not just you given council a speech, but have you invited everyone in? Have you included everyone in a round table discussion? Not a speech, a round table discussion where you have council, community leaders, union leaders, GM, other big businesses that are around the area, so everyone can come to the table and decide what is best for everyone in Warren. And I think having small business owners at that conversation is pivotal and key. Thank you.
So the economics and the economic vitality of what allows a engineered downtown to survive is a crystal ball. Finding out how to do that, Partridge Creek is not doing very well, and others in the area aren't doing well. So it's a big concern. Now the downtown that they have in Warren, or that's been proposed, looks beautiful. We've seen a lot of advertisement in the Macomb Daily recently, asking for our vote on it. But we all want a downtown. We think it would be great. But again, as Ms. Barnwell said, it excludes a lot of people. We've seen this happen. I mean, how many of us travel across the U.S.? You go to certain sections. I mean, I was in Boston visiting my son a while back, and there's some stores I can't go in there. It's way beyond my pay grade. But you don't see a good diversity. You look at Royal Oak, you look at Ferndale, and the diversity of the stores are what makes a downtown.
Yeah.
Having us put a downtown at 12.5 in Van Dyke as opposed to some smaller venues across the city that's going to be able to provide services for everyone, that's more important. But to the downtown, love the concept, love the design, love to have a hotel there. Don't know how viable that's going to be right now. So the development agreement, and this is what's not talked about as much. It comes down to the numbers, and it comes down to the finance. The first thing the city has to do, you're the developer, I'm the city. I have to give you 6 acres of land for free. You don't have to pay me for it. I don't have, now in the charter, we're not allowed to do that. So I have to look to the state and say, where's the enabling legislation to allow me to do that? Because that's how we do things, is the state enables home rule cities to be able to do that. The next thing is, and there's a letter in this book that we got from Platt Moran that says, in order for the developer to make a profit or make an adequate rate of return on their investment, we need to give them $30 million. Now, I'm the city, you're the developer. I'm giving you $30 million. I get zero equity in the building, and you do not have to pay me back. That's a great deal. That's a great deal.
I'll take it.
But wait, there's more. Inside the development plan says that there's $12 million in potential transformational brownfield tax credits. I apply to the state. If I find some dirt in the soil that's not clean and I have to pay to clean it up, I get a credit for that. If I don't get that 12 million, if you don't get that 12 million, I got to make it up so that you can still maintain that 8% rate of return. That's not a good deal.
Yeah.
That's $30 million that I don't have for 20 years because I'm going to be paying $2.5 million a year in debt service. That's $2.5 million a year for cops, for roads, for diversity training, for everything we're talking about. That's $30 million off the table for a private interest with no public purpose whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's why I'm opposed to it. The project's great. Find a better way to fund it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I had the great opportunity to be in Royal Oak as a business owner when they were starting their downtown, and I sort of had a front row seat of when they started their development and the mistakes they made along the line. You know, they had great plans, and there were certain things that were included in their downtown that just didn't work. And now I think they've come back with a better plan, and it's a concept that lots of people enjoy. It's not real high end. It's sort of in the middle, and it goes across a broad spectrum of interests and businesses. So I think originally when we started the downtown, and I was on the city council at that time, we had a vision for what that would be. And the number one thing that we wanted out of the downtown for it to be a walkable space for the residents, to be a coffee shop, a dry cleaners, housing that people could afford, even to have a senior housing component so that it would be available and affordable for residents. But also, originally, we wanted to have certain aspects that would bring in businesses and people from other areas. I don't think that's going to happen now. I think that what's happened with General Motors, they've divested themselves of most of their international, China, India, there's not going to be travel there. General Motors is going back to 2 days at the tech center. There's not going to be much travel, so I don't think we can look to GM to fill a hotel. If you look at like West Bloomfield, they wanted a higher end hotel, no interest whatsoever, so they had to settle for a more medium priced hotel because there just wasn't the market. And if you look at I think Pat's wife knows pretty well, the hotel rates in this area are not very good. The Star Report are not very good. And to think about a 5-star hotel with a 4-star restaurant and apartments at $2,500 a month, who can afford that lives now in Warren? But a very small subsection of people. And are there that many people that are dying to come to Warren that'll spend that kind of money? I don't know. Like Pat said, I think it's a crystal ball. You know, we just don't know what's going to happen. And to put, $42 million of the taxpayers' captured funds into a development that we've not seen. We've seen pictures. There's no letter of intent from any developer, anybody that's interested. They just think that maybe this will happen. So we don't have anything concrete yet really to address. So there's a lot of questions to be answered yet, and I think it's still going to be a long process. Thanks for your questions.
Hi everyone. So I'm also on Warren City Council. I agree with a number of items that my colleagues have said, but I would like to walk you through some of the research that I have done. So one, the project as a whole has what's called conditional approval from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the MEDC, which is a brownfield transformational tax credit, which conditional approval gives us a really good chance of getting it. It will be timed out in 2022, so we will miss a window if we do not take an opportunity to take advantage of this opportunity that is before us now. It was created not because the ground would be contaminated like many brownfield. It was created by the folks and Dan Gilbert to take a vacant piece of property that could be transformational to a community. So it would be getting that $15 million from the state of Michigan. Additionally, the $30 million is a bond, which would be bonded as a loan that we would then recapture from the taxes that the development would create. I agree that small businesses, coffee shops, all of these things need to be incorporated, and I don't think they're off the table in any way whatsoever. And so I think there's an opportunity for more people to come to the table to think about how the retail space would be utilized, and particularly in this downtown not being actually developed for 2 or 3 years. GM is moving much of their operations to Warren despite their decreased workday. They, on a non-COVID day, they would have 2,200 visitors from out of town. Those people are staying in the Townsend, they're staying in Troy Marriott, they're not staying in Warren, and they're walking to a restaurant and spending money in another place, in another community, and we lose millions of dollars a year. I am 40, I'm the youngest person on city council. I spend a tremendous amount of money outside of the city because there are not offerings for people of my generation. Within the city, they're going to attract new homeowners and stabilize the community more than it has to. While I agree there are opportunities for us to improve the plan, voting against it and dragging our feet on an opportunity that exists for us as a whole is a shame. And it is a not forward-thinking move to be really thinking about how we are going to move the city forward in the future, because you will not survive without intergenerational families owning homes within the city, along with small business, a hotel, restaurants, other things, so people actually come to Warren as a destination and also want to plant roots and live there. So I'm happy. I've spoken to many, many developers. I've spoken to the people who helped create the transformational brownfield abatement, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people have about how that looks. And I've been very supportive. I'm happy to work with my colleagues to make it better, but I think a vote against it and to drag our feet into the future is just a shame and doing the city a disservice.
I appreciate those comments, but I think a vote against it isn't a vote against a downtown. It's a lot of us up here have lived here our entire lives, who are raising children here, who have businesses here, and this downtown has much more potential. And what I've told the mayor is that it can't be your way or the highway. A vote for this is saying, oh, I'm just going to roll over and do this, even though it's not, it could be more. And that's what like the rest of the council colleagues and so much of us who have not signed on and endorsed this plan is because we are fighting for the residents, and we think that this downtown could be more, and we want to make sure that we're putting Warren residents in the best situation possible. Yes, this is a $30 million bond, and as a treasurer of this city who signs off on bonds, I'm not comfortable signing off on a bond for a hotel that my residents can't stay in. And I think that when we take out bonds to the city, they're for all of our residents. They're for infrastructure. They're for roads. They're for our parks. They're not for five-star hotels. And that's what Councilman Green is saying, that yes, we can bond it out. And I guess we're not taking out our own money, we're putting it on a credit card. But we're putting it out on a credit card for something that not all residents can use. Not all residents can take advantage of. That's why we're upset. That's why we're concerned. That's why it's not following the charter. And yes, I guess this is done in other cities, which I've talked to other people throughout the state and outside the state. It is done in other cities, but it's done for things that benefit all residents, that all residents can use and have a buy-in for. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
I wanted to touch on the economic development in Warren, which we can all agree is desperately needed. You drive through our city and there are countless storefronts that are vacated and essentially creates blight. We have a lot of infrastructure that needs some improvement. We live in a city that has affordable housing issues, in a state that does not have enough affordable housing, in a country that does not have enough affordable housing, with a population that is struggling to get by week to week on paychecks. I appreciate the scrutiny of this plan, because when we're talking about large-scale economic improvement for our city, it needs to be broader than a square mile. We need to look systematically. We don't need to subsidize high-end luxury apartments.
Yep.
We need to look at how do we expand housing affordability for our residents and to attract new families. Developers will build $250,000, $500,000, $1 million houses because they'll make a profit on them. What we need is more starter houses, which is what drew many of our families here to live.
Yep.
You watch Oakland County and you watch why Hazel Park kind of blew up, because it was one of the last areas that was affordable and had the potential for growth. And Warren is that. And that's why we've had 4% growth, is families looking for opportunity. And I'm going to raise up my head to step away, but she was advocating for our small businesses with our county commission. When Oakland County was giving out COVID funding to help their small businesses sustain through a year and a half of hardship. They were handing out $10,000 and $20,000 grants to their businesses. Macomb County, well, we provided more small business grants, left about half or redistributed the money to other purposes. Granted, good purposes, but there are a lot of small business owners out there that are saying, we could have used a little bit more help to get by because we invested in your community before COVID. And we've been here and we are the employers for this community. So we've got a lot of work to do. We do not want to be a third-rate Royal Oak. We want to invest in attractions. What is going to bring someone to a hotel or a restaurant if there's no attraction, right? Why are they going to Troy? Why are they going to Oakland County? Sorry, Sterling Heights. I'm not going to, don't want to throw you under the bus. I will compliment you. Thank you for the sizable investment in parks, in recreation, in infrastructure that when the Warren Community Center opened, brought people from the surrounding communities to our community to use our facilities. I would love to see that money look across Warren because this downtown development authority, and correct me if I'm wrong, starts at 12 Mile and goes north. And I hear really exciting ideas being discussed, like skate parks. I watch kids bringing their skateboards to the parking ramp at City Hall because they love skateboarding. But I know at least 3 parks throughout our city that would be great sources to put a skate park. What about a multi-purpose, useful park? I was in Boston for a conference. I walked out of the conference center and there was an amazing facility that had lawn games, picnic areas, public ping pong tables, a stage, and a cafe all in a public use area that could then be segmented and modular for rentals to help pay for it to go forward. I love that we have a vision for investing in economics in Warren. I just think we need to look a little broader at what our options are.
Yep.
If we can hear a little bit about the Sterling Heights plans as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So we have some interesting developments in Sterling Heights. We're actually not really developing a downtown specifically, but we are redeveloping our lakeside development. It couldn't be really downtown when we redevelop it because it's actually the northern tier, actually right bordering Shelby Township, so it wouldn't be considered a downtown. But we're working to redevelop it to be what would be similar to a downtown with a downtown feel. We have already a developer who has purchased that property. We're working together with them. We are doing specific ordinances that would repurpose that area. So it would be completely multi-use. We will have residential within small business, cafes, even a Whole Foods type, not necessarily Whole Foods, but a small grocery type area, multi-use office buildings. So it's going to be walkable, not just walkable where you would be able to walk within it, but you would actually be able to walk, the people who are there would be walking from their residences to places, maybe even a business, doctor's offices. It would be completely sustainable. That's our goal. If we have a park area right there, that would be where it would be very beneficial for just the younger and older generations. It would be multi-generational, where we do already have senior housing right there. Across the street, we're going to have low-income housing. So it would be very, very well-rounded, very diverse. We would be hitting all different populations, all different economic abilities, and that's our goal, so that it would be well able to be sustainable throughout another pandemic, another whatever would happen, economic crisis, and that's our goal. It would not be specifically a retail area, because obviously retail, as we know, has changed completely. The pandemic has changed how we shop and how we use our medical, how we use our businesses. A lot of people are now working from home and probably will not be going back to their office setting. You know, me as a nurse, and seeing how we're changing our way of seeing and taking care of each other. People are staying home. People are going only to their doctors if necessary. That's how we're learning to reconnect with each other a little bit differently. So that's what we're doing with looking to our lakeside. Yes, our city offices are going to stay probably where they are for the near future. That might change. Maybe we will go up to the lakeside area. But we don't, at this point, those are going to stay where they are. So that's what we're looking at Sterling Heights and Lakeside. Okay, and I'm sure Councilman Radke has a few thoughts.
Just a few. So one thing we've really focused on with the Lakeside development, hopefully it will become somewhat of a downtown or an uptown or an area where people can congregate. But we're focusing on a bottom-up approach of placemaking and people sizing the area. And I think Lionheart Capital, who bought Lakeside, understands our vision and with their vision. The trouble is making the ROI or the dollars work. Because they came to us with a plan earlier this year that was not sustainable in the sense that they were asking for too big of a contribution from the city. We told them we just couldn't do that. They've gone back to the drawing board. I fully expect to see more mixed use, row housing, multi-apartment buildings on top of retail, small cafe. The whole idea is just to create an area where people want to be. One of the things we've learned with our Parks and Recreation program, Recreating Recreation, is that not only if you build it, they'll come, but if you make it people size, they'll do it. So we've expanded our music in the park. We've expanded our parks program. We now have a food truck rodeo on Tuesdays at our city park. We keep adding to it. And that's the energy we want to take into this new development at Lakeside Mall. This idea that if you build it on a small scale, people will kind of spin off from your ideas and build their own. It's easy to say, well, we want streets, we want this, and that's too much centralized planning. That's what makes it cold. We need our small business owners and other people to kind of build on their own ideas, and we'll work with them to create, hopefully, a new downtown, uptown, people-sized area in Sterling Heights. That's all I have.
Thanks, man.
Well, that was the last question that we have for today. So I want to thank everyone. Unfortunately, it was a great question. We're just out of time. We actually told them that we were going to try to wrap about 2:30. It's now 2:55, so we're just out of time. All of the questions that we've received that haven't been answered, we are going to ask the elected officials if they can weigh in on them, and we're going to post answers onto our website and onto our social media as well. So if you've asked a question, there are a number of great questions that were asked about the EEOC, about a number of things. We just couldn't get to them all. But I do want to thank all of you for coming out today. I would like to thank all of our elected officials for coming out today. I think they did a tremendous job. The work that we have ahead of us is huge. We've got a lot of work to win back Sterling Heights. We've got a lot of work to win back Macomb County. And that work starts with all of the people here, and it starts by supporting the people that are up here. They came to speak to you today because they believe in the same things that we believe in. Now we have to repay that by helping them. And that starts with helping them win elections, which leads me to, I'd like Mike and Liz to come up and talk about fundraisers that they've got coming up real quick so you guys know about them. And anytime these elected officials reach out to us for support, I hope that you all will help us help them. So come on up and tell us about your fundraiser.
Real briefly, because I know we're a little bit late on time, I do have a fundraiser September 8th. It is going to be at Penna's on Van Dyke. If anyone is interested, please, I do encourage and ask if you could come. And so thank you for all your support. Thank you.
I also have a fundraiser coming up. It's August 29th. It's going to be at Mia's Tasty Grill in Madison Heights. It's a woman-owned business. She's a Sterling Heights resident. She started her business during the pandemic. It's a restaurant. She was closed for 5 months before she could open. I'm trying to make sure we can kind of send some business her way because right now, for our small business owners, we have to really support them, especially because they've had a lot of trouble staying open and having employees. With that being said, this election in Sterling Heights I think is going to be the most expensive ever because we had a primary this year where we've gone from 15 to 12. The Proud Boy lost, but we still have a lady who was investigated by the Secret Service for threatening the life of Barack Obama. So it's going to be a very exciting time. If you can support us, we'd appreciate it. You can read more about my positions and my fundraiser on our website, voteradkey.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and that's going to be a wrap. But thanks for everything you do, and let's win some elections.